Government Bill, first reading. Registration of Same-Sex Partnerships Bill. Second reading. Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs. President, I move the second reading of the Registration of Same-Sex Partnerships Bill. First of all, I'd like to thank members for their views on the government's legislative proposals at the meeting of the panel on constitutional affairs earlier this month. Although opinions of members vary, and some of them may seem disapproving and critical, this is exactly what makes the Legislative Council important and valuable. Members here represent different social strata, different sectors, and different voices. They do not only express their views based on their own beliefs out of their goodwill for Hong Kong's long-term prosperity, stability, and development, but also contribute their ideas for Hong Kong to go from stability to prosperity. In light of the different views expressed, the administration has given careful consideration to the matter. Given the judgment delivered by the Court of Final Appeal, the administration has an unshakable positive obligation to establish an alternative framework for legal recognition of same-sex relationship within the 2 years from the date of final order made by the court. To show the SAR government's determination to uphold the rule of law and our respect for the CFA's judgment, we decided to introduce this bill into the Legislative Council in the hopes of it being supported and passed by the members. I'd like to now highlight a few important principles with regards to the proposals submitted by the government. First of all, we note that many LegCo members have raised grave concern on the proposed recognition framework for same-sex relationships. They are worried that it will undermine our traditional monogamous and heterosexual marriage system, or worse still, lead us down the road of same-sex marriage. The government has repeatedly stressed that in the judgment delivered by the CFA, affirmation was given to the fact that constitutional right of marriage guaranteed and protected by the Basic Law and the Hong Kong Bills-1st&2nd is confined to opposite-sex marriage and does not extend to same-sex marriage. Same-sex partnerships to be registered under the legal recognition framework are not equivalent to marriages. This much is clear and there is no way around it. As the responsible government, we will adhere strictly to the Basic Law by recognizing the union for life of one man and one woman as the only legal marriage system in Hong Kong. We strive to ensure that this system will not deviate from any of our policy or policy initiative. We understand the members' concern, but at the same time, we hope that the members will have confidence in the government's determination to safeguard the traditional marriage system enshrined under the Basic Law and never go beyond the bottom line. Second, as the chief executive said at a press conference yesterday, the rule of law is the cornerstone of Hong Kong's economy, investors' confidence, and its long-established success. Violating the rule of law will mean serious consequences. I believe that no one would question the importance of the rule of law to Hong Kong, which has also been repeatedly emphasized by the country. As the saying goes, without a pair of compasses and a set of square, it is hard to draw a perfect circle and a square. Without the rule of law, how can there be rules and regulations, let alone orderly development of our economy and society? Hong Kong has all along been governed by the rule of law. We became a world-renowned international metropolis because of our rule of law and our convergence with other legal systems around the world. The CFA ruling in question is one that is made by exercising the power of final adjudication legally and constitutionally in accordance with the Basic Law, the Hong Kong Bills of Rights, based on the legal system and the spirit of the rule of law that we are proud of. The CFA judgment is legally binding on the Hong Kong SAR government. The government must not violate it and must fulfill its positive obligation. or else it will be violating the rule of law and undermining the cornerstone of Hong Kong's success. For this reason, despite the fact that some may have different views on the rulings made by individual judges, we should respect the rule of law, respect the lawful rulings made by the court under the existing judicial system. I believe that all members here are reasonable people who understand the rationale and the importance of the matter. Third, according to the CFA judgment, although the government has a positive obligation to establish an alternative framework for legal recognition of same-sex partnerships and set out the corresponding rights and obligations, the court also clearly pointed out that the government and the legislature enjoyed a flexible margin of discretion in providing for the rights and obligations attendant on the proposed recognition framework. Different countries and regions formulate their laws based on their constitutional tradition, legal procedures, and social values. As such, we have conducted detailed study on and carefully considered how we can meet the requirements set out in the court judgment while meeting the basic social needs of relevant persons to fulfill our positive obligation. At the same time, we have to cater to Hong Kong's actual situation, interest of the society as a whole, and social expectation by striking a balance as we strive to formulate a framework that is acceptable to all parties. We clearly understand that it's difficult for us to satisfy everyone with our plan. After all, it is simply inevitable that there exist diverging views and opinions in the society. Nevertheless, we believe that we have struck a reasonable balance with the proposed framework. We hope that members can scrutinize the bill in an impartial, fair, and a pragmatic manner under the premise of fostering social inclusion, harmony, and unity. As for the specific contents of the bill, I have already explained them in detail at the last panel meeting, and they have also been set out in the Legislative Council brief. So I will not be repeating them here. However, I'd like to reiterate the government's position on two different points. First, there have been isolated comments saying that the requirements for this registration of same-sex partnership outside Hong Kong is inconvenient and unfair. As I've explained at the last panel meeting, the reason why we introduced this requirement is to ensure that the same-sex partnerships to be registered with the government is a committed and stable one. The requirement is objective, verifiable, and administratively feasible. The relevant arrangement will also make the verification process more convenient for the registrants. As such, we are of the view that the requirement is appropriate and would not cause too much difficulties to the registrants. There's also been criticism against the inadequate protection accorded to the rights of same-sex partners, which is not in line with the CFA judgment. I'd like to stress here that the CFA required the government to confer rights on same-sex partners to the extent that their basic social needs are met while not being subject to interference. Under our existing proposals, we are to establish a legal recognition framework such that same-sex partners will not be harassed as they disclose their relationship while conferring rights to them for meeting their basic social needs. The proposal set out under the bill has met the court's requirement. As pointed out by the court, the government and the legislature enjoy a flexible margin of discretion. The framework formulated based on the actual situation of Hong Kong and the interest of society as a whole is both reasonable and legal. The government is acutely aware of the controversial nature of this proposal. This is indisputable. To uphold the rule of law and to honor the judgment made by the CFA by fulfilling our positive obligation, the government decides to rise up to the challenge by introducing this bill into the Legislative Council, which has fully demonstrated the style of this government in never avoiding any challenges. We hope that the members can scrutinize this bill in a pragmatic, reasonable, and impartial manner. We welcome any suggestions from the members to improve the bill. because this is how the executive and the legislature can play their respective roles in fulfilling our positive obligation under the Hong Kong Bills of Rights. President, I appeal to members to support the registration of same-sex partnerships bill. The administration will fully cooperate with the Legislative Council on the scrutiny of the bill so that it can be passed as soon as possible. I so submit. Thank you, President. I now propose the question to you that the aforesaid bill be read the second time. In accordance with the rules of procedure, the second reading debate is adjourned and the bill is referred to the House Committee.